All right, so you're ready to jump into the world of Black Metro, huh?
Yeah, and you know what's really grabbed my attention? This game's got lore, a whole world built around it. It's not just a game.
Right.
He built like a whole universe.
Oh, wait.
Like with that novella.
Black Metro, the successor.
Yeah, that's it.
Such a cool addition.
Totally adds another layer.
It does. Like, he wants us to really get in there.
Yeah. Not just watch from the outside. It's not just a thematic tie-in, though. The game designer, Amesh Dezoisa, actually wove the story into the mechanics.
Oh, hold on. For real. Like, where do we even start digging into all that?
We've got the Absolute Ascendancy website and even the game's starter guide. They're packed with background on the city and the factions fighting for power.
So before we get into all that, can we start with like an elevator pitch?
Yeah.
Like, what is Black Metro?
Imagine a dystopian city about to, like, collapse.
All right.
A powerful empire's closing in, and you're one of the candidates who wants to be the next ruler and save Black Metro from destruction.
So each player is basically a candidate
Exactly.
in this big city-wide power struggle.
Yeah.
Do they have different backstories or motivations?
Yeah, you're not just some faceless thing, you know? You're actually embodying a character with a stake in Black Metro's future.
That makes sense.
Like Danielle Rosebridge, she's this brilliant scientist,
Right.
and she discovered this new energy source called draconium. And that discovery has put the city on the Empire's radar.
So there's real world building.
Yeah.
It's not just like extra stuff they added in,
Oh, it's all connected.
but like actual characters and events that like made the setting what it is.
Right, and that's what makes it so compelling.
Yeah.
It's not just abstract mechanics, you're actually like part of this narrative.
This city, they're like rebels
Yeah.
going up against a huge empire.
David and Goliath.
It is. What's the deal with their name?
Oh.
The Empire,
The World Order Autocratic Imperial Alliance.
yeah, that. Bit much, don't you think?
Well, you gotta imagine.
Okay.
World's all messed up, war everywhere.
Yikes.
And this alliance, they show up,
Oh,
promising order, you know.
makes sense.
Some places join up, happy to.
Sure.
Others, not so much.
Forced in.
Yeah.
Wow.
But Black Metro, they're like, nah, we're good.
They're brave.
Oh, yeah.
They're neutral then.
Basically,
Okay.
doing their own thing.
I respect that.
You and me both.
So this isn't your typical, like, build a cute little town and everyone's happy kind of game.
Oh, absolutely not. I mean, just picture it. A massive city, advanced tech everywhere, but it's under constant threat from this huge empire.
Okay, yeah, that's got dystopian written all over it. But how does this play out on the board? What makes Black Metro stand out?
Well, it's this really cool mix of worker placement and area control. You don't see those two together very often.
Now, I get worker placement,
Mm-hmm.
but area control, how does that fit in?
So you're sending out your workers to win different spaces, right? Those spaces represent districts in Black Metro. Each district has its own actions you can take, resources you can grab.
So familiar so far.
But here's the catch. So Dezoisa was really clever and gave each meeple a strength value. And
Okay.
that adds like this direct combat element.
Oh,
You can actually overpower your opponent's meeples if your strength is higher. When you win a space, it actually limits what your opponents can do there. They won't get all the benefits.
Whoa, so it's not just about claiming territory. You're straight up messing with your opponent's plans. Gotta imagine that gets pretty intense.
Oh, definitely.
Talk about a power move. But does that mean Black Metro is all about being aggressive, just crushing your opponents?
Not necessarily. I mean, yeah, overwhelm is big deal, but the game's designed like a sandbox. Lots of ways to win.
So you're saying I could be like a ruthless dictator type?
Sure.
Or I could be more, I don't know, strategic?
Exactly. You could dominate districts if that's your style, but you could also go for completing missions, getting support from those powerful syndicates, even researching advanced technology.
Ah, so there's room for different play styles, which is always a plus. Before we get into all the strategic stuff,
Okay.
I want to know more about the world itself. Like, what made Dezoisa create this dark and kind of scary Black Metro?
That's a great question, and it tells you a lot about all the different things that influence the game. He's talked about how much he loves the look and feel of cities like Melbourne and London, especially at night.
Oh, okay.
He wanted to like capture that feeling of mystery and energy and danger that you get in those places after dark.
Yeah, I can totally see that the game board itself is like dark, almost like a film noir, you know,
Yeah.
with the sleek buildings and like shadowy alleyways. It definitely has that nighttime city vibe,
Mm-hmm.
But there's got to be more to it than just how it looks.
Oh, there is.
Okay.
He's a huge fan of anime and video games, and those influences are everywhere in Black Metro.
Okay, so those are some pretty different inspirations.
Yeah.
So I'm really curious to hear more about them. How did those things shape Black Metro?
Okay, well, he's mentioned being really into Yu-Gi-Oh!, Final Fantasy stuff, and Batman Beyond,
Okay.
and even Pokemon Black and White.
With Pokemon Black and White. Okay, now I really want to know how that turned into a board game.
Well, think about it for a second.
Okay.
The idea of cards that are powerful and change the game a lot is definitely a Yu-Gi-Oh! Thing.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
And that dystopian setting with advanced tech and corporations that are kind of shady, that's a lot like Final Fantasy VII.
Okay, yeah, I see it.
And even the name Black Metro kind of reminds you of Neo Gotham from Batman Beyond, which was also dark and gritty.
Wow, I never would have noticed all those connections.
Yeah.
It's amazing how he took these totally different things and made them work so well together. So I'm really getting a feel for how much depth this game has and how much you can replay it. But let's zoom in a bit.
Okay.
We've got this board with 12 different districts.
Yeah.
Right? Each one's like a part of Black Metro's society and economy. So what kind of choices are we making when we send our people into these districts?
This is where the worker placement part really comes alive.
Okay.
Each district has its own actions and rewards.
Mhm.
It's like a web of choices and consequences.
Yeah.
So, for example, the Shadowforge factory, that's where you get Draconium,
Okay.
which is super important for like research and politics.
Right.
But it's also a place people who want to dominate militarily are going to try to control.
So if I'm trying to get good at technology, I need to get the Shadowforge early on.
Yeah, you need that Draconium to do research.
But then that might make me fight with someone who's trying to win by having a big army.
Right, exactly.
Right.
And that's just one example.
Okay.
You also have places like the Gilded Bank, which is all about money,
Hmm.
and the Chronicle Archives, where you can get information to help you with strain.
Okay, so each district is a piece of the puzzle.
Yeah,
And to win, you need to understand how they all work together.
exactly.
This is a lot to take in.
It is.
But in a good way, it's like a giant puzzle where the pieces can be used in different ways, and you have to change your plan based on what your opponents are doing.
Right.
This is getting pretty intense.
It is.
It's not just about what actions you take,
No.
but also managing your resources, taking risks, and knowing when to make your move to have the biggest impact. The ultimate goal is to become the most powerful player, right? But how do you actually get there?
It's all about gathering the most power you can by the end of 6 rounds.
But let's talk about how a round actually works.
So each round has these 4 distinct phases: assignment, dominance, resolution, and standby. This is what keeps the game moving, keeps you on your toes because you're constantly reacting and adjusting to your opponent's plays.
So it's not as simple as move your guys, collect your stuff.
Not even close. It's this constant cycle of planning your moves, trying to take control, getting the rewards, and then getting ready for the next round.
Okay, break that down for me a little bit more. What happens in each phase?
You've got the assignment phase where you're placing your personnel, these guys called subs, onto different districts of the game board.
So like those worker meeples in a classic worker placement game. You're trying to grab the best spots.
Exactly.
So with that strength element, though, it's got to be more than just getting a spot right.
Here's where it gets really interesting. The area control element comes into play because you're not just collecting resources, you're fighting for control of these different districts. You have to think about the conflicts that might happen later on.
Yeah, like anticipating your opponent's moves and outsmart them.
Exactly. It's this constant mental chess match. And remember, you can't just keep reinforcing a district once you've placed personnel there. So those early placements are really important, make you pretty vulnerable until you can build up some strength.
So what happens when everyone's put their meeples down?
So that's the dominance phase.
Dominating a district.
Mm-hmm.
What does that even look like?
Good question. Think of it like
Okay.
like a tug of war.
Okay.
You and your opponents, you're pulling on this district.
I like it.
Most strength wins, control, all that.
Makes sense. Strength comes from.
Oh, your personnel, how many you got there?
Okay.
Any forts you built,
Right.
it all adds up.
So just sending in the most guys, that's not always enough.
Not necessarily.
Right.
Whoever's got the highest strength is the dominant player in that district, which gets them power and limits what their opponents can do in that area.
So this is where having some stronger units than those basic subs comes in handy, I'm guessing.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. You can upgrade those subs to paragons, which are way tougher.
And if you have enough strength, you can actually, like, kick other players out of a district.
You can, yeah. That's where overwhelm comes in.
Oh, yeah.
If you're way stronger, like 3-1,
Wow.
you boot them out. Their personnel, gone. That's a major power play that earns you extra power and stops your opponents from doing what they want.
Man, I could just imagine the trash talking flying across the table when someone
Oh.
gets overwhelmed.
Oh, yeah, it can get pretty intense.
Placement matters even more now, right?
Huge. Can't just spread yourself too thin.
Think about where to,
Consolidate.
carve up those strongholds.
That's the dystopian part coming through.
Oh, right. It's like,
Power is everything.
yeah. Got to flex those muscles.
The real showstopper is the Doom mecha suit.
Now that Doom Mecha Suit sounds pretty badass, what makes it so powerful?
It's this super strong unit that can totally shift the balance of power. Imagine it stomping onto the board, just changing everything. It can completely overwhelm opponents, block their actions, and just lock down those key districts you need to win.
So it's this mix of strategy and tactical combat.
Yeah, you got it. And that's where those early decisions about building strength really matter.
Yeah.
Dominance isn't just about bragging rights. It's about controlling the resources and the actions.
So this is where it really gets strategic.
Yeah.
Okay, so once we know who's in charge of each district, then what?
Then it's the resolution phase.
Okay.
That's all about getting the rewards for all your planning.
Right.
Each district has its own effects that activate based on who's dominating.
Okay.
And they can be things like gathering resources, researching new technologies, or even building fortifications to make your control stronger. Credits, draconium, and intel. Each one is used for different actions. That adds this whole layer of resource management to the game. You can only use that ability if you have personnel in that district. And if you dominate the district, your opponent's options are really limited, which makes your control even more valuable.
So not only do you get the benefits of the district, but you also limit what your opponents can do. Double win. So it's like this domino effect where being dominant in one place can create a ton of advantages in the game.
Exactly. And that's where the depth comes in. You have to
Yeah.
think ahead a lot.
I could see that.
You got to think how your actions will affect the game, how your opponents might react.
This sounds like a game that you really have to think through. It's not just about like random moves.
Yeah, every decision counts.
Yeah.
And what you choose can have big consequences.
Makes sense.
And now, the final phase. Standby. Might sound like a time to relax, but in Black Metro, even the standby phase is full of tension.
Ooh, I like where this is going. Tell me, what makes standby so nerve-wracking?
It's all about regrouping, getting ready for that next round, but, your opponents are doing the same thing.
Oh, right. So you're not just planning your own moves. You're also trying to figure out what your opponents are going to do.
That's exactly. Like, did they just charge up enough for that Doom mecha suit?
Uh-huh.
Are they gunning for the same syndicate I am? It can get pretty paranoid, makes you second-guess everything.
More subtle.
You bet. We talked about missions.
And the syndicates,
Mm-hmm.
getting their backing, all that.
Think of those as, like, extra chances to
Right.
get power beyond just those districts. Missions are like objectives you gotta hit,
Okay,
bonus points, all that.
got it.
And syndicates, well, they're like the big players in the city.
Influential.
Oh, yeah. Get them on your side. That's a boost.
So you're juggling a lot then,
You are.
trying to do those missions,
Yeah.
keeping your opponents in check,
Always.
all while grabbing power wherever you can.
That's Black Metro. It gets complex.
I love it. They said the game gives you choices,
It does.
like different ways to play.
You can focus on one thing. Yeah.
What?
Dominating or the missions, whatever.
Oh.
Or you can spread out.
So like a little of everything.
Exactly. Hedge your bets. See what works.
Okay, let's dig into that a bit more.
What you thinking?
Missions. We said there's two types.
Right. Dominance and standby.
Breakdown time. What's the difference?
Dominance mission, well, the name says it all.
Oh, Betty.
Crushing your opponents, that's how you score them. Showing everyone who's boss.
Got to flex those muscles.
Exactly. Now, standby missions,
Those are different.
completely. They're about, well, think of it like milestones.
Okay.
Research enough tech, gather the right resources, things like that.
You don't do those right away, do you?
Nope. There's a special phase for it.
Each round,
That's right, the standby phase.
like a chance to catch up.
You got it. See where you're at, make adjustments.
Always thinking, always planning.
You gotta. It's all about being flexible,
Yeah.
And in the full Black Metro game, standby also includes the event die.
The event die. What does that do?
Well, whoever dominated the most districts gets to roll it. The result, it triggers some random event.
Sounds like things could get pretty crazy.
They can. Sometimes it's something good, like a resource bonus. Other times it's disruptive, like a district exploding and shutting that location down for the whole round.
Wow, keeps you on your toes, that's for sure.
Rel.
It sounds like really mastering the standby phase is crucial for long-term success in Black Metro.
It is. You got to find that balance between prepping for your own moves, guessing what your opponents might do, and then being ready for whatever that event die throws your way.
And that brings us to
What's that?
tech. I'm fascinated by that.
The Oakland Laboratory.
Yeah, that's the one. All those cool gadgets.
What kind are we talking about here?
That's what I want to know.
Yeah.
What can we research in Black Metro?
Okay, so there's 4 categories. You've got logistical techs for movement, battle techs, well, for battle, of course, resource techs to help you manage those precious credits in Draconium, and then you got your neurotechs. Those let you, like, mess with the very fabric of Black Metro society.
Wow, so there are a lot of options to think about. So how do you actually get your hands on this tech? Does it just magically appear, or do you have to actually work for it?
You definitely got to work for it, but it's a really satisfying process. Remember those upgrades we were talking about? Well, they not only unlock that super powerful Doom mecha suit, but they also give you access to better and better technologies as you go.
Oh, that's cool. So you're not just getting stronger units, you're also refining your whole strategy as you upgrade.
Exactly. You pick the tech that fits your strategy.
Give me some examples, though. How do they actually work in the game?
Okay, so battle tech makes your personnel stronger, easier to overwhelm.
Oh, nice.
Resource tech boosts that income.
So it's like you're always upgrading.
You are unlocking new ways to play.
But some of that tech can really shake things up.
Oh, absolutely. Some are small, gradual improvements.
Okay.
Others, they change the whole game.
Like what?
Like, imagine a logistic tech lets you move your guys at just the right moment.
Ooh, sneaky.
Disrupt your opponent. Snag a key district.
I love those aha moments, those big plays.
Me too. It's all about thinking smart, knowing the game inside and out.
This is not a game you win by just being tough.
Nope. Gotta be clever.
Adaptable, too.
Always.
This game is a workout for your brain. What about those fortunes you mentioned earlier? How do they fit in?
Fortunes are like wild cards.
Okay.
Kind of like the powerful cards in Yu-Gi-Oh!
Okay.
They can really change things up
Oh.
and give you chances to make big moves.
Okay.
You can get them from certain districts like the Swiss Casino or the Ancient Shrine.
Yeah.
And they do all sorts of things. Some give you more strength or influence. Some let you sabotage your opponents or mess with resources.
So they're like those get-out-of-jail-free cards.
Yeah, you can totally turn the game around with them.
But they probably aren't easy to get.
No, they're not. You have to take risks or give up something else to get them.
So it's a gamble.
It is, but it's one that can really pay off if you're smart about it.
This is getting pretty intense. What about the players themselves?
Okay.
We know they're candidates trying to be in charge, but who are they really?
Right.
Do they have backstories, motivations, personalities?
That's where Black Metro does something different from those typical Euro games.
Okay.
You know how in those games you're just kind of like a nobody moving pieces around?
Yeah.
In this game, each candidate is a real character with their own story and goals.
Okay, that's cool.
And they even have special abilities that fit their personality and how they want to rule.
Okay, now I'm really interested. Give me some examples. Who are these characters and how do their personalities affect the game?
So you've got the gambler, who loves taking risks and getting big rewards.
Okay.
They might be better at getting and using those powerful fortune cards,
Okay.
but they might also have more problems if their gambles don't work out.
So you're really playing as that character.
Yeah.
Making choices based on who they are and what they're good and bad at. It's like a story and a game all at once.
It is. And that's just one way Black Metro mixes story and gameplay.
The dice system.
Okay.
I know we talked about it a little bit, but I'd love to hear more about how it works and how it adds to the game.
The dice system, it seems simple at first,
Okay.
but it actually adds a lot of depth to the game.
Okay.
See, in a lot of games, dice are used for things like fighting or moving. But in Black Metro, they're used to make things happen, resolve special abilities, and even change the political landscape.
Oh, so instead of just being random, they're like tools that players can use to change the game in unexpected ways.
Exactly.
Okay, now that's interesting.
Each die has different symbols on it, and they represent different things that can happen in the game, both good and bad.
Okay.
So, for example, One symbol might give you a bunch of resources,
Okay.
while another might force you to make a tough choice or make you go backwards.
So it's like in real life when something unexpected happens and you have to change your plans?
Yeah,
I can see how that would make the game more realistic and exciting.
but there are ways to deal with the randomness of the dice.
Okay, good, because you don't want to just be lucky all the time.
Right, the game has mechanics that let players influence what happens when they roll the dice.
But I'm also curious about balance. With all this talk about overwhelm and conflict, is it possible to win without being, like, super aggressive?
That's a good question. It seems like there's a good balance between different playstyles.
So it's not just for people who like to go in guns blazing.
Right, you can definitely win that way if you want,
Yeah.
but you can also be more diplomatic or strategic.
Maybe working with the syndicates, playing the long game, that sort of thing.
Exactly. Remember, completing those missions, getting that syndicate support, researching tech, all of that's important too. You don't have to be the most aggressive player at the table.
Okay, that's a relief.
Yeah.
I always appreciate games that give you options, let you play to your strengths.
Yeah.
You know, it really sounds like Black Metro does that well.
Yeah, it does seem like a game that can adapt to different personalities and situations. But, even beyond the mechanics and strategy, I have to say I'm really drawn to the whole world they've created around the game.
Oh, yeah. I mean, a board game with its own novella? Come on, that's pretty awesome.
It's not something you see every day, that's for sure.
I know.
It looks like it really digs into the city's lore, the characters, everything. It's like
Yeah.
they went all out to make this immersive experience.
Seriously. Talk about dedication. His story's pretty cool, right?
It is, yeah.
From what I read, I mean, his website, the blog.
4 years, that's how long he worked on this.
Wow.
And he's open about it,
About what?
The whole process.
Oh, interesting.
The struggles, what he decided to do, what he learned.
Like, get a peek behind the scenes.
Exactly.
It's passion,
Oh, yeah.
dedication.
You can tell Black Metro is like his baby. He was really intentional about filling a gap in the market.
What do you mean by that?
Well, he felt like there weren't a lot of games that combined worker placement and area control like this. He wanted something new.
So that was part of his goal from the start, to create something unique.
Absolutely. And he talked about wanting more direct player interaction, too. He felt like a lot of worker placement games were missing that.
That head-to-head competition, for sure.
Right, and that's where overwhelm comes in, and the way strength becomes so important as the game progresses.
You mentioned the game changing as you go. How does that work?
As you move through the rounds, strength becomes more and more important, like direct conflict matters more.
Interesting. So you might start off focused on resources, building things up, but then you got to be ready to throw down later on.
That's the idea. You have to adapt as the game goes on. Speaking of building things up, did you check out those districts in the starter guide? That artwork is wild.
Right. I'm getting serious sci-fi vibes just looking at it.
Uh,
But it's not just about pretty pictures, right? These districts all have their own strategic advantages.
For sure. Like, say you need draconium. It's this rare, super valuable tech metal.
Sounds important.
Yeah.
Where do I get my hands on that?
You'll want to control the Shadow Forge factory. That's the industrial heart of the city. Or maybe you're the gambling type.
I'm listening.
Check out the Swiss casino. High risk, high reward. You could draw these fortune cards that can really shake things up.
Okay, that's got my attention.
Yeah.
And what about, like, the ultimate power spot?
Oh, you're talking about the Astral Tower. Super fortified, right in the heart of Black Metro. Whoever controls that is in a seriously strong position.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But with so many things going on, so many choices to make,
Hmm.
I'm wondering if it could be too much, even for people who play a lot of board games.
Yeah, I can see why you'd think that.
Yeah.
But the cool thing about Black Metro is that even though it's complex, it's still easy to understand.
Okay.
The rules are actually pretty simple,
Okay, good.
and the game flows well. Once you get how the main parts work,
Okay.
the real challenge is, like we said, mastering the strategy, understanding how the different parts work together, and figuring out what your opponents are going to do.
So it's like the game respects you as a player. It doesn't weigh you down with a bunch of rules and stuff.
No.
It gives you clear mechanics and then lets you use your own creativity and strategy to win.
Exactly, and I think that's something a lot of players appreciate.
Yeah, for sure. It's like the designer trusts you to figure things out
Yeah.
and discover how deep the game really is.
And that shows how good De Zoysa is as a designer.
Yeah.
He's made a game that's both complex and accessible, challenging and rewarding.
Right. It's a game that new players can enjoy,
Mm-hmm.
but it also keeps surprising experienced players. It's pretty deep when you think about it.
And it shows how talented the designer is. He made a game that's not just fun, but also makes you think and teaches you something.
Black Metro doesn't shy away from the darker side of human nature.
It doesn't.
But it also shows how creative and resilient we can be.
Yeah, and how we can be kind, even in unexpected ways.
Okay, you've convinced me Black Metro is more than just a game.
I told you.
It's a social experience, a strategic challenge, a story, and even a reflection of who we are as people.
And that's what makes it special.
It's like the designer gave us a blank canvas and said, go create your own stories.
And that's the beauty of it.
Yeah. But no matter how you play it, Black Metro will challenge you, surprise you, and stay with you.
It will.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground. We talked about how to play, those 4 phases, the different units and resources, how important technology and upgrades are, and even those curveballs like the landmarks and those fortune cards. So for someone who's itching to start playing Black Metro, what are those key takeaways?
I'd say the most important thing is that there are multiple ways to win in this game. You can go for military dominance, make friends with the syndicates, or focus on a tech-heavy approach.
So there's no single right way to play.
Nope. The best strategy depends on your style, what your opponents are doing, and even a little bit of luck with those fortune cards and that event die.
It sounds like this game really rewards adaptability and strategic thinking.
Absolutely. You have to be able to read the situation, make quick decisions, and be ready to adjust your plans as you go.
So don't get too attached to any one plan.
That's right. Black Metro is constantly changing. The situation can go from one extreme to the next in a single round.
Okay, so for someone totally new to Black Metro, what's a good approach to those first few rounds? Spread out or laser focus on specific areas?
Early on, it's all about branching out, using as many districts as possible to gain a foothold and tap into those sweet, sweet resources. But as the game goes on, the tension definitely arises. You'll need to start consolidating your power, focusing on overwhelming your opponents, and controlling those key spots that are going to lead you to victory. And did I mention there might be more coming?
Really?
The creator, he hinted at expansions.
New characters?
Maybe. New districts, new tech, the whole shebang.
This world, he's not done with it.
Nope. Still growing.
He even mentioned an AI mode, right?
For solo play? That's gonna be awesome.
Can't wait. So cool to see a creator like this. So passionate. They're not just making a game
They're building a world.
that you can just get lost in.
Exactly. Explore, discover new stuff every time.
And he's making it accessible, too.
Get solo mode, yeah.
Different ways to play for everyone.
He really cares about the experience, you know?
He shows. Well, I think we've covered a lot today.
We have
Black Metro, the whole deal.
the world, the strategy, all of it.
Those amazing candidates.
It's a lot to take in.
It is. So for our listener today who's clearly interested in this game,
Yeah.
I say go for it.
Dive in.
Explore the world, experiment, and find your own way to win.
Exactly.
And who knows, maybe you'll even learn something about yourself along the way.
Yeah, that's a good point. We always love hearing from listeners and learning about their experiences with the games we talk about.
For sure. So if you do try Black Metro, let us know
Yeah, tell us what strategies you liked
which candidates you connected with.
and what stories you created in the world of Black Metro.
Because in the end, a game's success isn't about awards or how much money it makes.
Right?
It's about the experiences it creates, the connections it builds, and the stories it inspires. And with that, we'll leave you with one last thing to think about.
Okay.
We've talked a lot about the game's mechanics, its themes, its strategy.
Yeah.
But the most important question is this. What kind of ruler will you be?
Ooh, good one.
Will you be ruthless and cunning? Or will you try to be fair and compassionate? Will you focus on technology or on the well-being of your people?
Those are the choices you have to make.
Yeah, the fate of Black Metro is in your hands. Until next time, happy gaming, everyone.